Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Power of 1 Million webinar series. I am so excited that you decided to join us again for another week of inspirational millionaire conversations. So today I have the lovely Luisa Zhou. Hey, Luisa, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Of course, of course. So you guys know I'm gonna give a little intro of like why we started all of this, and then we'll go into the conversation with Luisa. I'm so excited to have her too, because like this is just a prime time for her expertise. Like all of us sitting in the house and having to change our whole normal. Like we have a new normal right now. So this is like gonna be an awesome conversation. But guys, so you all know me. I am Teri Ijeoma, and I'm the founder of Invest with Teri and the Trade and Travel program. I got my first millions through investing in the stock market and then teaching other people how to invest in the stock market. And this conversation was birthed out of our goal for the year. So our goal for the year is to help 1,000 students to make $1,000 in a day, and that equals $1 million a day. Oh my God. Like I get excited every time I hear it and I think about it, because just think like how much impact we could have if we were making $1 million a day. Like I was just thinking through some of the small things. One guy I talked to the other day said that he was paying for, I think it was not, I didn't talk to him. Actually, I heard Steph Curry bought like 1 million meals for students.
Wow.
Because they're out of school right now, a lot of kids are not able to eat. So he was able to just pay for 1 million meals. And I was like, what could we do if we had $1 million a day? We could do that too. We could help kids that are hungry right now because they're not in school. Like there's just so many different things and impacts we could have if we were generating that income. So that's where these conversations came from. We want to just broaden our horizons and think bigger about what we could do with $1 million and any kind of $1 million. But our beautiful, beautiful guest today, she's made $1 million through, and I will let her explain. So, Luisa, will you
Oh,
tell them a little about yourself and how you made your first million?
yeah, absolutely. So this goes back to quite a few years when I was in a job, right? Like so many of us start out, I was in a job doing digital advertising. And what happened was I eventually, after a lot of ups and downs, which we will probably talk about, I'm sure, figured out how to take my job skills and build that into a six-figure consulting business. Did that, left my job, and people started asking me, how are you able to do that while working a job, building six figures? And so I said, hey, it took me quite a few years to figure all this out. I'm going to share with you everything I learned along the way. And so thus was born my employee to entrepreneur program. And so nowadays I help people take their skills and turn them into their own online coaching or course business. And through doing that, that's how I broke my first million a few years ago.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is perfect. This is perfect. I like literally just talked to my best friend yesterday, and she was talking about how she's been thinking about using her skills to offer some consulting work. So like she currently works for, I don't even know if I could say this out loud, but she currently works for LinkedIn, and she's like, you know what, with everybody like losing their jobs and having to restructure right now, like they probably need some help getting like learning how to do their LinkedIn profiles. I could offer that as a service.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
gosh.
you totally should.
Yes.
But like, so how do they do? Well, actually, let's first start with your story. So like, how did you go from employed to entrepreneur? Or like, what actually made you want to quit?
Okay, so yeah, let's start there. So, I mean, for me, I basically had a really great career, right? Everything that my parents are first generation immigrants, basically raised me on the American dream: work hard, go to a good school, get a good job, and be set. And so I had done all of that. But at that point, I had the six figures, I had the management position, I had all the cool stuff that you think about when you're raised that way. But I realized it basically what I was spending all day doing was looking at Excel spreadsheets, looking at PowerPoints, and then talking to people about those things, right? And so I also was looking at what the people ahead of me, like my VPs, SVPs, were doing, and they were doing essentially the same thing. And I remember thinking to myself, that's not what I want to be doing 10 years down the road. or however many years down the road. And so that's what got me started thinking, okay, what can I do that will allow me to still have a great income, but do something that feels just more fulfilling to me?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what's crazy? Like, I feel like I've been in the same place. Like, when I was in consulting, I had this dream of like, oh, I'm gonna be flying from place to place. It was so glamorous in my head. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be talking to people and helping them solve their problems. But my real day to day was like, I'm making PowerPoint slides and in here all day because I have to send it in, get edits, put it back. Like, it wasn't what I thought it was at all. At all.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people though are afraid to take that leap. So, how did you get over the fear of leaving your job?
Yes. Okay. So for me, well, first of all, I will tell you, every other month, it seems like for years, I would call my mom and say, all right, this is it. I cannot stand my job another day. I'm turning in my notice. This is it. Right. So I definitely had to battle kind of that urge, which I know so many of us do. But at the same time, I knew, here's the thing, like, it sounds super sexy to say, hey, I'm going to turn in my notice and I'm going to go full time. But what happens when you run out of savings and your business still isn't growing the way you wanted to or needed to pay your bills? Well, you have to go back and get a job. And I knew where I was. I'd been in the right time, right place, right? So I was lucky to have the position, the salary, the responsibility that I did in that company. And I knew that if I left, it might be tough for me to find another position that was parallel to that in all those respects. And so I knew I had to be smart about this. And so what I did, thankfully, each time I called my mom, she talked me off the ledge. I basically started building my business on the side. And it was really hard, right? I basically, there were a few months where that was all I did: go to work, come back, and work on my business. And that was it. But through doing that, I was able to build my business to six figures before I turned in my notice,
Wow.
which it was still very scary. And I mean, it was tough. I don't know that you really need to build, a whole six figures before you turn in your notice. I'm really risk averse, right? And so through doing that, what happened was I was able to say, okay, I've got this cash in the bank. I know how to make sales and I've got more sales coming in. So it's now or never. And so I had to get to that point before I said, all right, and even then it was scary. After I turned in my notice, I told my manager, I walked into an empty conference room, closed the door, and I just sat there for, I don't know how long. I was like, my gosh, what did I just do?
Oh no. Oh my goodness. Now, and when you're in that, like, what type of mindset would you say someone has to have to execute that successfully? Because I feel like that's a special person that can like have this side hustle generating money, six figures side hustle. That's
Yeah.
huge. And then finally be like, no, okay, I'm good. I'm leaving. Like, what kind of mindset do you think you needed?
Yeah, looking back, to be honest, sometimes I even think to myself, how did I do that? It was crazy. It was tough. But there were a few things that I had to really think through. The first is I had to have my eye on like the prize, the long-term goal. Because I mean, this was something, even though the six figures came together within a few months after I started making sales, this was something I tried to do for like 3-4 years before I actually started seeing some traction. And so one of the most important things I would say is that you have to really keep in mind why you're doing this, and you have to believe that what you want is possible. Because otherwise, for those first 3 or 4 years, it could have been very easy for me to say, what the heck am I doing this for? This is not going to work. Let me just put all my time into my business, right? And then even when I was starting to get sales, there would be times when, of course, I would get on a sales call for a potential client and they would just say, no, I can't hire you. I can't afford you. Things we hear as entrepreneurs. And during those times, it was really hard to say, hey, I'm going to stay the course. I know there are people out there who need this, who can afford this, who are happy to pay this. And I'm just going to keep on believing. I would say that was the most important mindset that helped me get through hey, I just got off from work. I'm really tired. I don't feel like working. I'm having a really bad day because I thought I would get a sales call or a sale and I didn't. All of those ups and downs, just like staying focused on the end goal that I was aiming for.
Okay, if somebody is going through this right now and they are like they're going through rejections, like I've reached out to several people and they rejected me, or they're going through, well, maybe I should lower my price because nobody's taking it. Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah. Okay. So I think about this both in terms of a kind of logical way and a mental way. And both of us having like those engineering and scientific backgrounds, I know our audiences are going to relate to this. First, I look at it like I reverse engineer what's going on, right? So if I've got multiple rejections, I'll sit down and look at, all right, where did those people come from? Did they all find me from one place? Right. So is it maybe that those people just aren't the right fit for me? And I know now that I need to go to other places to find potential clients. Is it that the offer I shared wasn't a good fit, right? Were they all like, hey, I want this, but your offer sounds off because of this, this, and this, whatever patterns I'm seeing? Or were all of them saying, hey, this price just doesn't feel right because I don't know you, I don't trust you, or whatever is going on. So I look for the patterns, reverse engineer like where the weakest links are, and then figure out, okay, how can I solve it? Right? If it's not the right place, okay, how do I go to the right place? If it's not the right offer, what do I need to tweak about my offer? Same thing about the price, which actually brings me to something I went through at the beginning of my business, where the very first client, how I got them was I basically went online into Facebook groups, which was where my audience at the time, small business owners who needed help with their advertising were. And I started just answering questions. I wasn't even trying to sell anything. I was just trying to see, hey, is there someone who actually wants to hear about what I have to offer? Mm-hmm. And so what I did was I found this woman who was asking questions, and then I reached out to her and said, hey, I do this in my job. I'm happy to answer all your questions. All I ask for in return is a few minutes of your time so I can ask some market research questions. And would you be open to that? And she said, yes. We had a great call. And then for about 2 weeks afterwards, I basically answered all of her follow-up questions for free. And these were like long essays where I just explained things in detail to her. And she responded back within about after about 2 weeks of this. She emailed me out of the blue one day, and I opened the email. I thought it was going to be another question. And it was, hey, you've given me so much incredible value for free. How can I hire you? And I actually had to say to her, oh, this is awesome. Please give me a week. I have no idea what's fair, what to sell, what price point to charge. Let me go figure this out. And then let's talk in a week. And so I did that. And the price I ended up with was about $5,000 for 6 months. Now, I know that might sound high, right? But what I did was I reverse engineered into, okay, how much time outside of the weekly calls do I think I'm going to be supporting her? And I based it off of how much time I'd spent answering her questions. And it was a good amount. And so I said, okay, this many hours times my hourly rate, that's $5,000 for 6 months. Yeah. And so she actually, because I'd given all that value up front, she actually said, hey, that sounds great. All right, done. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in business. Now, what happened after that, though, was I spoke to other potential clients. And because I hadn't had that connection with them for like the 2 weeks beforehand, they didn't really understand me, or they didn't know me as well. I didn't have any website or, a lot of brand recognition or a big audience. And so they said, like, you know what, I can't afford you. And so I heard that so many times in a row. It must have been like 20, 30 no's in a row. And I said, okay, look, I have two options. I can hold on to my rate because I know the value's there. My client who had bought from me was loving it. Or I can just say, hey, what am I going to go for? Right now, am I going to try and optimize for more profit? Or am I going to try and get some clients at a lower price so I can get some clients, build my reputation, get some learnings from how I work with clients? And so I asked myself, what is the lowest rate I would feel comfortable working with someone for, knowing all of the things that I just talked about? And I decided, all right, you know what? For the next 1 or 2 people only, I will sell a 3-month package at $1,500. And so that's what I did. Dropped my price. There was no ego. It's like, look, I know what's going on. I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn from it. And then I'm going to raise my price back up. Did that, got my next 2 clients, raised my price back up, and never had to drop it again.
Wow. Wow. I heard so many good nuggets there. So I heard like you had to build trust first because once you build trust, then people are willing to pay you more. I heard that you had to
Exactly.
lower your price in the beginning to get some clients, maybe to get those testimonials in, and then you can start like raising it again.
Exactly. And it wasn't just like building the social proof, the testimonials. I mean, that's super important, of course, but it was also building my own confidence. Because after
Mm.
those no's, I was starting to think, maybe it's really isn't worth it. Maybe I am overcharging. You get in your head. And so getting those next few sales, like the clients were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it was only this much. Like, this is incredible. They were getting results. And so once I saw that, I said, okay, yep, got the proof, confidence back on. All right, going forward.
Oh my goodness. Now I have a feeling that there's going to be some people that are like, okay, Terry, like I hear you, or Louisa, I hear you. I have this idea and I think I could offer it, but like nobody knows me. So like I heard you say you didn't have a big audience. Like how do they go after? How do they
Yeah,
start?
okay. Yes, I love this because here's the thing, it can be easy to forget. Every single person starts with an audience of zero, big fat zero, right? And it doesn't matter where you are in your job, how established you are. Like it's really hard to take that and say, oh, hey, look at my, career experience. And I fell into that trap a little bit in the beginning where I was thinking, hey, I'm really good at my job. I'm paid a lot. I'm really sought after. I know what I'm talking about. Why aren't more people seeing that? Well, it's because it's a completely new kind of world. And so the easiest way is to talk to people. Don't hide behind like a fancy website, emails, all of that. Like there's a time and place for that later on. But in the beginning, all I did was I searched for people asking questions about ads that I could answer. I saw someone asking a question, I would answer it. And sometimes that would turn into a client, sometimes that wouldn't. And even if it didn't turn into a client, I was fine because I was thinking, hey, I'm building these people who know me and know that, hey, Luisa knows what she's talking about, right? So just talking to people or showing up. And what's so great about nowadays is that we have all of these amazing ways to connect with people live via video. There's nothing that beats that. And I mean, I remember when Periscope first came out, I was on that because it was so much easier to get some sort of live streaming software and talk to people like this than it was for me to like write stuff and like anything else. And so I got on Periscope as soon as it came out. I was just sharing my information just like we're doing now. And people were able to see, oh, wow, yeah, this Luisa chick knows what she's talking about. And it's going to be the same for you. Right. And once people know that, they see you're a real person, they see what you're talking about, that trust starts really snowballing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, so I heard you talk about like hiding behind the websites because I really feel like I have several friends that are doing that. Like the first thing I tell them, like, oh, like say, okay, let's take for example my friend with LinkedIn, and I know she's gonna be so mad at me, like, Terry, you use me as your example. Lord, you know I love you, girl. I really do. I love you. This is for the greater good of everybody who needs help. Okay, but so for example, she said, I have this skill that I can offer to all these people. So like I can help them with LinkedIn. And then I said, okay, well, cool. I think this is the time. Like people, coronavirus, they're restructuring. We could get that email out today. And she was like, wait, no, but I don't have a website. I don't have, all these things of what she didn't have. So like, what do you say to people like that are like worried they don't have what it takes?
Yeah.
Or, like not
Here's
even,
the thing.
yeah.
No, like I hear this all the time as well. Cause like I used to think it too. It's like, you want to be professional and it's like, okay, if you have to go to work, dressed appropriately, well, it feels like the equivalent must be a website. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time doing all of that. But the good thing is that when I was doing digital advertising consulting, I hadn't even had time to set up a website. So when that first client asked me, so what happened was I saw, okay, it's possible. You don't need a website. And so I did that and I got my first I want to say, I made $20,000 in sales before I really set up my website. And it just goes to show, right? Because nowadays, especially if you're helping people with your job skills, for example, you can reference your LinkedIn, you can speak to the things that you know. And if you're speaking to someone and you can be very upfront and say, hey, I'm new to this as a business. I'm not new to what I'm helping with because I've done this in my career for however long. But
Mhm.
what that means is I don't have a website. You can look at my LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer your questions, and you're going to get an awesome introductory rate. And I'm going to do everything I can to help you get awesome results, blah, blah, blah. Right. So turn it into your favor and let people know why you don't have a website, and just be very upfront about it, and then focus on the things that matter. Because to be honest, no matter how gorgeous a website is, people don't connect to that. They're not going to be, no one in the history of the world was ever like, oh my gosh, this person's website is gorgeous. Let me just go hire them right now.
Right,
Right?
right. And I feel you because even with my business, so with trade and travel, people don't know, but for the first, like I still to this day have no website. Like we've been, it's gone through
Oh
several.
my God.
Yes. So like
I love that.
I've literally made like multiple millions with no website. And it's really about like when people hear me, when people see me, then they connect to me. So if you just get like, even if you just go on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, like people just once they hear and see you or go on YouTube channels and just whatever it is, when they hear you and see you and can build a relationship, that's so much more powerful
So
than just a
true.
website. Do you agree? Now, how do you tell people to be seen? Like, how can they reach the masses?
Yes, I love this. And I mean, I'll speak to that. I do have a website nowadays, but I don't think we've updated it in like 4 or 5 years, right? So I mean, it looks good, it's professional, but I'm not standing around being like, how can I make my website the most gorgeous thing? It's good enough, it's there, it works. Now I can focus on the things that matter, like what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
so when I say, hey, you're starting out, you want to connect with people, figure out one social media platform where your audience is. So for example, if you want to do career coaching, use LinkedIn, right? Like your friend, use LinkedIn. If you're helping small business owners, maybe Facebook groups is the way to go. If you're doing something like health coaching, maybe Instagram is the way to go. Start finding your people where they are. Start just doing two things. First, sharing things that are going to help them, right?
Mhm.
Like it could be recipes, it could be tips on navigating your career, it could be like what I was doing, sharing tips on running your ads. Whatever that looks like, start sharing information. And it doesn't have to be complicated. What I usually say is, look, if you share one thing a day on whatever platform you're on and just be consistent about it, at least during the weekday, that adds up. Don't
Mhm.
overcomplicate it for yourself. Then the other half of the time, be actually engaging with people. So don't just, post and then be like, okay, I'm done for the day.
I
Find
did
my
it.
awesome content and then come find me, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you have to put yourself in front of people, answer their questions. If people are commenting on your posts, then respond to that. Go proactively search for places where people are having conversations about this and engage with them both ways so that you're doing both the push energy and the pull energy to really get in front of your audience.
And Louisa, that information is so important. And I think you're so right because the times where I've seen the most increase in my business is when I was just giving information and tips. And you don't have to sell. Like you just want, like, that is your selling. When you're just giving them more
Yeah.
information, they'll naturally be drawn to, like, well, what else does she know? What else can she
Yes.
teach? And then I love what you said too about engaging with them, because I think that customer service piece really is where a lot of your sales come in. Like, do you find that too? Like really the back end is where you actually make the sales. It's not so much on the front end.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, so for the last 4 or 5 years, I did one big live launch every year. And each launch, we do close to $1 million in sales. And even with launches of that size every single year consistently for the last few years, I will tell you, so, I mean, yes, at this point, a lot of people do just buy from, my content and my sales emails and sales pages. But so many people, even if they just speak to me for 10, 15 minutes, just to be like, Luisa, you're a real person, right? They have that little bit of connection. And then they're like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And, or, if they send in a question, and I'll respond with a quick recorded personal video for them saying, hey, I did a quick checkup on your website. It would be a good fit for you. It wouldn't be a good fit for you. Here you go. That little piece makes the world of difference.
Now, okay, I need you to personally coach me right now too, because like I get so caught up in my own stuff. I'm like, I don't want to be on no phone call. I don't want to talk to them personally. So how do you like make
Yep.
time to do those small things?
Yeah. So, I mean, let me first caveat with I am not perfect with this. I do the same as well. I get in my, I'm working zone and it's like nobody talk to me. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely there sometimes. But what I do, a few things I do that helps are first, I like set times where I'm like, okay, I'm all in on showing up for people. And
Mm,
that's really one of the many reasons why I love doing a launch, right? Where it's like, look, I'm not in my head. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do this forever. I'm saying, okay, here's my launch start date. Here's my launch end date. During this time, my only focus is on talking to as many people as possible. Or like during certain times, I will make that a focus. If I'm not doing a launch, then maybe I'll say, for example, okay, I've got this week because of this reason that I'm focused on this. Or right now with everything going on, I'm doing the same thing where I'm setting aside, hey, I'm going to do one daily during the weekday, either a live stream or a post or an Instagram story or something to show up and connect with you. I'm more active than usual on my social media channels, reading messages and everything to make sure that this is a time of connection, So like
mhm.
predefine times of connection, just like you've got predefined times for work, for personal, for workouts, whatever that looks like. Just carving out that time is my number one tip, right? And
Yeah.
then the other thing is just to like practice doing it quickly. Where in my head, because I'm an introvert, I like to plan things out. I get in my own head about how much time I need and how much energy I need to do certain things. So if I'm like, okay, I have to show up and do a live stream. Yes, technically I get up, I do a live stream and then I'm done. But it feels really energetically draining to me. So I'm like, oh, I have to put on
Mm.
makeup, right? I
Right?
have to
I
like
gotta get
be
cute.
into energy. So, it's just like these things because we're human beings. And so, what I do is I just be really disciplined about not letting myself overthink it. Where I'll be
Mm.
like, look, today, right, I'm going to do some calls, I'm going to do some interviews. Might as well, since I'm putting on makeup anyway, do a live stream since I'm in the energy, right? Then maybe Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day, I will set aside and say, hey, maybe today is my recharging day. And so just getting in that zone where you're like, okay, this is my time to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be present for my people, check out my comments and everything. And this is it. And then when I need to be doing my other time, that's when I'm doing that as well. And so I would say those are the two most helpful things that I've been able to do to really manage that.
That's good. And I like when you said, like, okay, if I'm already cute, what else can I do? Because I feel like that's helped me too. Like, I batch my cuteness. So, like, if I'm already
Yes.
cute today and I'm on this call, then okay, I can do one more video for, content that I
Yeah.
can put out maybe later on Instagram or YouTube. But since I'm already cute, we're gonna get it all done right now.
Exactly.
Now, okay, I have a couple questions for you from what you said, just because I know that some people are wondering. So, like, what is a launch? I know that sounds basic
Yes.
to us
Okay.
now, but
No. I totally get it. So the way I think about it is there are many different ways to sell things online, right? And the most common way is just to say, hey, I've got something, here you go, if you want it. Now, a launch is just a little bit more concentrated energy of doing that, where it's like, okay, the best way to think about it is like the interviews, the all of the events that happen for a movie leading up to its release, right? That's like a movie launch. And so the equivalent for a course or a group program is to grab lots of attention, have this concentrated burst of energy, momentum, awareness, connection during a set period of time where you say, hey, I'm getting ready. Here's what I'm going to share with you for you to get excited about my course. Here's the course that is available now. The course is going to not be available at this date. The movie equivalent of it's going to be gone from theaters,
yeah,
and like it's from this time to this time. And during that time, the idea is because it's such a concentrated burst, you're doing all of these things more than normal, which is not sustainable, right? But it doesn't need to be because you're putting it all into a short amount of time. Just like a movie promotion, you're able to get more attention, get more connection, get more momentum, and drive more sales.
yeah,
And so what I love doing is I love doing a combination of launching to really do all of that. And it's especially great for when you're starting out and you're not as well known, for you to build lots of momentum, right? Because nowadays, look, if you have an audience of 100,000 people, even if a small percentage buys from you, you're going to do pretty darn well. However, if you have an audience starting out of 100 people, which was about what I had during my first launch, you need to get every single person's attention, you know? And so that's another reason why I love launches as well. And through doing that, what that does is it allows you to bring in a good burst of energy, momentum, grow your audience, drive sales, and then also mix that with other different types of promotions where like somewhere you just say, hey, here's my offer. If you want it, here it is.
Yeah. Now, okay. I like you just say so many good nuggets. I just want to make sure the people heard it. So I heard like, so you're building all this kind of concentrated momentum, and it sounds like there's like this sense of urgency that is like driving people to want to get in and get your product. And then like you said, like with the movie, and you're so right, because I even think about this for myself, like with the movie, there's like the trailers and there's the things that come up beforehand. Like, does that usually, like, what are some of those things that kind of lead up to you launching?
Oh, yes. I love this. Okay. So my equivalent of the trailers is I do a live challenge leading up to my launch every year. And so what this is, a challenge is basically a series of daily short prompts that you give people to help them get wins before they're like, oh, this is possible for me. This person is helping me. Then I believe I can get the result that this program is going to help me get because I've already started getting results. That's like the core idea. And so to get a little bit more specific, each year when I launch my Employed Entrepreneur Coaching Program live, I will do a 10-day challenge leading up to it, which I call the Weekend Empire Challenge. And the reason it's called that is because I want to show people, hey, you can start building your business on the weekends. That's what I did. So let me show you how to build a weekend empire. You know, it's basically my creative take on side hustle, except it sounds, I think, a little bit cooler and more unique. And
You did good. You did good.
thank you. So then what I'll do is during those 10 days, I'll give one short prompt that shows people, hey, here's one thing you can do. Most of the time, like 15 to 30 minutes, most of the time 15 or less, to be able to start making progress in your business, right? And it's like very powerful but simple things like day one, getting clarity. Day two, maybe sharing what you do with 3 people so that you're starting to get interest, right? And so what happens is during those 10 days, and at this point I've run it, I can't remember, like maybe 4 or so times, maybe 5. And I've had 40,000 participants go through the challenge over the years. And what has happened is people are able to actually, some people get clarity for the first time after years in their business, trying to work on their business. Some people get their first ever paying clients. And when people get results like that, they're like, oh, whoa, this stuff works, right? Now I'm super excited to hear about the whole Employed Entrepreneur Program. Let's hear about it when I talk about it at the end of the challenge and open enrollment for the program.
Wow, that's so cool. I like in my head, my wheels are turning. I'm like, what can I do to offer like a 10-day challenge and 15,
Oh, good.
15 minute snippets? This is good. This is so good. And then I do want to shift a little bit because we're in this time of the coronavirus and quarantine and people getting laid off or having to be forced to work from home. And so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions in relation to that. Like even like both of us we both work from home normally, but still like it's different now because we're forced to work at home, right? So I guess one question I would have is, and this is kind of a mindset question, but I have some people that are like, well, with everything happening right now, I don't want to launch my business because like I don't want to talk to people or sell people something when the world is in disarray. Like, what would you say to someone who had that fear?
Yeah. So the number one thing I always say is that when you think about selling, a lot of us, myself included, are raised with this idea that selling is like that used car salesman, right? You're being icky, pushy, kind of a little bit sleazy. That's not what selling really is. At its core, selling is being of service. You're providing something of value, and the exchange for that is some financial investment that the person receiving that value deems the equivalent or even better than the value of what they're receiving. And so what that means is when you come from that place, right? Now is a more important time than ever to be of service. And the thing, this is so important, because when you're being of service, there are many ways to be of service. You can absolutely donate your time, your money, all of those things. However, that doesn't always mean, when you're being of service, that you cannot be compensated in return, because that's devaluing yourself and what you bring. And think about it. How can you be of service if you're struggling to pay your own bills? You can't. And so when you are serving in that way, truly helping people, when you're being compensated, you're like living your life without worrying about how am I going to, pay my rent next month. It creates this flow of value that just has this domino effect. And so the key, especially during now, is to come from that place of, how can I add value? How can I help? What can I do that's helpful? And so a few examples some of my clients are doing is, so I work with a lot of coaching, career coaches, and something they're doing right now, a lot of them are shifting what they're helping people with and what they're selling to, for example, intensives on, hey, let's talk about how to really set yourself up in your job right now so that you don't get laid off, right? So that if layoffs happen, you are in the position to stay and not have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You think that's, valuable to people right now? Heck yes, it is, right? Or same thing, another example is, I've got a client who helps boutiques increase their sales. And what she's able to do is, she's able to help them increase their online sales. So think about it. With so many boutiques right now having to shut down their physical stores and stressing out about how they're going to stay in business, do you think if someone's able to say, hey, I can help you out, help you weather this storm by driving more sales online, am I going to be, if I'm in that position, I'm going to be going, hallelujah, please, yes, help me out, right? And so it's just about putting yourself into that position and thinking, hey, how can I offer something that is actually of service and helpful right now? How can I offer it in this way that's sensitive of what's going on? It's not like we're saying, hey, go buy up toilet paper and sell it for hundreds of dollars. Definitely don't do that, Exactly. But when you're doing it from this place of, look, people actually need help right now. And I mean, how do we do our part? How do we contribute? And how do we do it in a way that allows us to be okay during this time as well, also, and taken care of? That's where you create those win-win situations that are what selling is truly about.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple pieces to it. I think there's that creativity piece of
Yes.
think outside the box. Now is not the time to start being conservative or think that everybody's going through the same thing as you. No, think creatively. What are people going through across the world, and how can you add value? So that's one. And then I think another part of it too is, I feel like sometimes we get into these situations where we feel like everything is going down and there's no sunlight. But there's always going to be something that is doing well. Like even when I think about investing, of course, that's where my mind goes. But everything is red, but then Zoom and Teledoc are doing amazing, because everybody needs Zoom, and everybody's going to need a teledoctor or telehealth. So there's always some green spots, but we just got to go look for those. And we can't think that just because, the news is bad, that everything is bad, because there's a lot of places where there's room for success.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I've been seeing all these articles lately about Zoom talking about how it's growing so quickly, it might not even be able to keep up with the growth. It's that's how quickly it's growing. So it's just, there's always growth, right? It's just, there's always a way for you to continue creating that win-win situation. It's just like you said, about being creative, about also being flexible, right? If you are someone who's been thinking about building a business a certain way, maybe you pivot a little bit right now with your offer, right? So if you are a career coach, you've been thinking about helping people get new jobs, maybe you pivot a little bit to talk about, hey, how do you not get laid off, right? And that's just one example to show that you've got your skills. Now it's just the time to be thinking about what's the best way to use them to help others, to help yourself as well in this time.
Yep. And I liked too what you said earlier about because of what's happening now with coronavirus, you're being more engaged. And I think that's another piece too. We even said that too, during this time, we're committed to communicating more often. And I think there might be some people that are a little afraid of that. They're thinking, well, I don't want to bother them, or I don't want to talk to them too much. But I think now is the time where you do need to communicate more. What would you say to some people in that situation?
All right. I've got so much to say, but I'll stick with a couple of things. First of all, it's like, look, when someone you really like texts you or calls you, do you think they're bothering you? To be honest, no. Like my sister, my best friends, they text me all the time, and each time I'm like, "Hey, yay, I got a text from them," you know? And it can be some silly little thing that's not anything big. The key is when you're sharing things from this place of people know you, people like you, people trust you, right? It's not a bother. And to be honest, it's this is actually what people want and need right now. I mean, I'm seeing across a lot of channels. I was just reading an article about it where like YouTube view times are up. They're up significantly because people have more time on their hands and they're spending their time watching videos, right? Same thing for other types of content. And so this is the time to be stepping up and sharing that, filling that gap of content that people are actually saying they want. And as long as you're coming from this place of, is it interesting? Is it, giving me some insight into you as a person? Is it helpful, right? There's no such thing as bother. Because also at the end of the day, the good thing is if they really don't want to, guess what? They can just stop watching, right? So it's just like that. Your job is to, or all of our job is to put out good content, helpful, interesting, useful. Leave the rest up to, other people.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You sound so much like me. I love it. I love it. I love you, Luisa. You're great. Because I say the same stuff. I'm like, you know what? If they don't like it, they can unsubscribe. Hopefully you don't, guys. I'm just saying, but but like I saw this random post and then we'll come back. But I saw this post, Lovey, what is Lovey's last name? Well, you all know Lovey on Instagram. She had put up a post and I think somebody put a comment on there that they didn't like her post. And she was like, but the thing is, you follow me. Like, like if you didn't like my post, you can unfollow, but like you clearly follow and comment on all of my videos. So like sometimes like just put out whatever it is that you want. Like the people who will like it. And if someone doesn't, it's okay. It's okay for them not to like it and to unsubscribe. And like, do you ever talk to people who feel bad when people unsubscribe from like their list or their things?
All the time, because especially when you're starting out and you only have, let's say, 10 people on your email list, if one person unsubscribes, that's 10%, right? And so it's scary, to be honest. But the thing is, I think what you have to realize, because it feels also you worked so hard to get every single subscriber, right? And so what I'll always say is, look, you've got to reframe this mindset from getting as many people as possible to getting the right people. Right. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if someone unsubscribes now, they probably weren't your people, right? Maybe they weren't interested in what you had to say. They didn't vibe with you. They weren't going to buy from you. So why not create this environment where you're surrounded by people who are like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see, Luisa's, Teri's, so-and-so's emails. I'm excited to hear from them. And like, why not just create that for yourself? So each time to be, down the road, when you have a bigger email list, every subscriber costs you more. So the way you can think about it is, you know what? Good. One less person to worry about and more space for the right person.
Yes, I love that. You want the right people around you, and those people will encourage you. They will support you. Louise, I gotta tell you a funny story. So like I accidentally posted. So, okay, let me back up. I was going last night and I was talking to my mom and I was telling her about how like, this coronavirus stuff sucks. Like it just, and I was like, you got to pray for me. And she's like, why do I need to pray for you? And I was like, I'm getting like stir crazy in my house. And I'm usually used to working from home, but like this feels different. Like I can't go out to eat, like the things I normally would do to see people at like after work or on the weekends, I can't do. Like we couldn't go to church. We couldn't go eat. Like I just felt like so like, it's out of my control. So I write this post and I'm thinking that it's going to be like in buffer somewhere, like it won't go out to anybody, but it says like, dang, my love languages are physical touch and quality time. And I feel like none of them are in my control right now.
Right.
But unfortunately, the post that I thought was going to nobody, like literally went out to my group, like all my students.
Oh my
I'm like, oh my gosh. But do you know, like, to your point of the right people, the responses I got were, Teri, you're so right. Those are my love languages too. And then I got like, we're sending
Oh,
virtual hugs and it's okay and it's not going to last long. But that's when you know you have the right people surrounding you. Like, the right people will support you, like, no matter what. Even when you're feeling vulnerable or like putting out like something crazy that has nothing to do with stocks, but all about my feelings. Like, like the right people will support you. So you're so right in that. You're so right. And I know, right? I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that went to like all my students. But okay, so back to being on point. I do want to know though, I know that I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I know that it hasn't always been easy. So like,
oh
what are
no.
some adversities that you've gone through and like any tips you would give when people are going through an adversity?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to say, I feel like every hardship you can think of, I've been through it, right? And it's like, it's not easy to see from anyone's like where they are right now, the things that they've been through, because how do you see it? So a couple of things that really stand out is the first thing I want to say is like, remember, I talked about how at the beginning of our time together, I spent 3 to 4 years trying to figure out what online business I wanted to build and trying to get clients before my digital advertising consulting business took off. 3 to 4 years,
Mm,
right? So during that time, I was trying different ideas. I was trying to get clarity. I did, for example, Microsoft Excel consulting, totally bombed that. And I mean, that in of itself had so many failures. I, didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't know my audience. I didn't know what I was going to sell and be of service with. And I was like, oh, I know all these fancy Excel shortcuts. I'm just going to write an article on it, pitch an article to Lifehacker, this really big publication. Of course, never heard back because I didn't know what I was doing. And like things like that, so many rejections that I just didn't even know why I got rejected because I had no clue what I was doing. Or with career coaching where, I started out, I was trying to like get clients on Upwork. And let me tell you, no, it wasn't called Upwork back then. I think it was called like Elance or something. So let me tell you, I was trying to, apply for a project. So if you don't know, Elance/Upwork is this platform that connects people with certain jobs that they have, one-off jobs with people who can do them. And you have to apply for each job. You have to accept the rate that that person says they're willing to pay. And
mhm.
so I would spend like 3 hours applying for jobs, get one job, and then spend like 3 more hours doing it. And the job would pay like $50. And so it was just like, first, it was incredibly tough. And then it was like, how am I ever going to replace my income doing this? Right. So those are just a few examples. And then, I mean, even way back for the 3 or 4 years, I started my first business. It wasn't online, it was offline. It was a tutoring, college kind of prep tutoring business 10 years. Oh no, like 12, 13 years ago. I don't even remember, a really long time ago.
Okay.
And, did that, closed it down because I was like, even though I made some good money, it was 6 figures. It was, I didn't want to spend the next 20 years of my life doing that. Right. And then I tried to start a mobile payment, try to co-found one, and we totally failed after 2 or 3 years. And we raised a good amount of money, spent it, didn't succeed. And so that's 2 to 3 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars down the drain. And
Mm,
so like all of these failures, not to mention like that time we talked through earlier where I had 20 to 30 no's in a row, right? All of those things, like now it's like, it feels kind of like I'm glossing over them a little bit, but the reason is because I don't want to sit here and be like, oh my gosh, let me feel into it. Those are incredibly painful. Like, I
mhm,
mean,
mhm.
days, weeks to recover my confidence, if not months or years, right? Crying, sadness, like, oh my gosh, am I ever cut out for this? Why is this so hard for me? What's wrong with me? All of those things, you name it, I've been through it, right? And I mean, that's just leading up to that's not even including the past 5 to 6 years of all the failures I've gone through with like new products I've tried to create that didn't totally land, bad investments. It's just like you're living life,
Yeah.
right? And what I would say for what, I mean, I'm not perfect with this, but what I've done to really help get through this over the years is, first of all, realize that when you have something like that, there's a learning opportunity. You learn way more. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. You learn way more from times you fail than when you succeed, right? All these times we're talking about, I actually kind of remember them a little bit better than all the successes I've had. Like
Yeah.
making my first million in a year, to be honest, I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for it and it changed my life, but I'm just like, oh yeah, that happened. But it doesn't feel as like I learned all of these things as, oh, right after that, I wasted my money because I didn't know how the heck to manage it. Right.
Oh
So it's
no.
just like,
We gotta talk about
yeah,
that.
exactly. I mean, thankfully, right, I've made more over the years, but it's just like all of these and downs, it's just realizing you're going to learn something from it, accepting that mistakes are part of the journey, mistakes and failures, right? So whenever I do that, I'll just look up examples of other people who've gone through something similar. And it's not to be like, oh yeah, we all stuck together. It's to like be kind to myself and forgive myself. Like, oh, okay, this is normal. This is part of being a human being. We're not supposed to be perfect. So for example, I just mentioned a second ago, after I made my first million, I pretty much wasted all of it on bad, buying a fancy apartment, like buying expensive handbags, flying business class everywhere, just like any stupid new money thing you can think of, I probably did it, right? But you know what? I was like, lesson learned, you can't cry over spilled milk. And I now have learned so much more about how to better manage my money. And when that happened, I was like really tempted to beat myself up, and I did for a while. But then I went and Googled people who make relatively large amounts of money in a short amount of time and the mistakes they made. And I was like, okay, this happens to so many people. I'm not saying, if I could go back and do it again, that I would do the same thing, but it's a mistake. You learn from it. What can I learn? How can I improve it? How can I prevent it from happening again in the future? And how can I go from here? Right. So, I mean, it's the same process, just like we talked through for if you're not getting results in your business, right? What's going on? What can you learn from it? How can you improve it? And how can you move forward? It really is the same process for all of those. It's just about being disciplined and being kind to yourself, realizing like you're human, you're okay, right? You're going to make mistakes. It doesn't make you any less amazing and worthy and beautiful of everything that you have to share, and accepting that, and then loving yourself more for it and growing from it.
Wow. Wow. And knowing that you did have that money issue in the beginning, are there any things you do differently now with money?
Oh, so many. So for example, I like when I made my first million, I'll tell you guys, I was like, I'm because I grew up in a very middle class family, right? Very standard. My dad's one income support, which is very middle class income, supported all four of us, him, my mom, my sister, and me, right?
Wow.
So we growing up, my parents always found the money to invest in our education. I'm so grateful for that. But we never went on vacations. We never went out to eat. We went to the movies like once or twice max in my entire childhood. And so I was like, man, I'm rich now and I'm never going to fly economy again because I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to buy expensive handbags. I invested in a really pricey gym. And to put this into perspective, it's the same gym that J-Lo works out at when she works, right? So
You're like, I'm gonna meet J-Lo.
Yeah, exactly. And so like all of those things now, and the very fancy apartment. And so all of those things now, I'm just like, look, I still absolutely believe in investing in the things that matter, but I am more conscious of the things that I choose to invest in. And I focus more on that saying Benjamin Franklin had, a penny saved is a penny earned. It's not about how much you make. If you make $1 million and spend $1 million, you've made zero.
Yep.
So really focusing on that. So like there are areas in my life which I do focus on. Like when it comes to traveling with my family, I will splurge because my parents are getting, up there in age and they've taken care of us all our lives and they deserve that. So a few months ago, before everything happened with coronavirus, we went overseas on a vacation, like a whole family vacation. And so I made sure that we were flying, first class, and my parents could stretch out their legs and everything. So I was happy to do that. However, most of the time when I'm flying by myself, especially like shorter flights, I'll do coach, because guess what? I'm just going to be sitting there sleeping anyways, right? So just little things. And another big example is the apartment. Like I was like, I need to live in this amazing, really expensive, fancy apartment. Did that, spent lots of money on it. Didn't need to do that again. So now I'm like, well, I mean, nothing in New York is cheap. So it's still pretty pricey, but I'm like, all right, you know what? I can do something that feels more reasonable to me instead of like 5 times the price, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just about like making those conscious decisions. I also like have set goals that I aim for, which I didn't have before. I was just like, oh, I made it. Now I can do whatever the heck I want. Not how it works, right? So set investment goals, saving goals. I do work with a financial advisor. So just like we have coaches for our businesses, coach for finances, right? So things like that. And just like continuing to educate myself on how to invest, how to save my money, what to do with it, all of those things, and just continuing to grow in that way as well.
Those are all excellent tips. I co-sign all of them. And you're right. Like I've had to check myself too. Like I love nice places. So that's like the one place where I feel like, okay, I'll splurge on where I live because I really, that's really important to me. But like my car, I have like a paid off car that's old and not that great, but like that's not that important to me. I'd rather use the money on a trip. This year I decided to like upgrade, and like I said, okay, well, I'm going to do luxury travel. I'm going to get the nice Airbnb instead of the cheap hotel hostel type of thing. but it's right. You have to be cautious and still have a budget. I think that's the one thing I've learned. Like, although my money has grown, I definitely still need to maintain a budget so that I don't like just spend like crazy and not be mindful. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh man. Well, are there any other things that you'd like to share with the people before we end? I want to, anything else?
Oh my gosh, I feel like we covered so much. So, I mean, honestly, I'm just like, look, if you take one of the things that we talked about away, I would feel like this was really good time spent on all our parts. Because like, look, if you're thinking now, I want to start my business now because I'm seeing, I want a second stream of income, or I want to be more in control of my income, right? Well, we talked about for how to do it right now, how, don't be putting it off. Even if you're thinking this is not the right time, it is. There's always a way for you to show up and serve. That's what building a business is about, right? And you deserve to be compensated well for it. And so really thinking through that, being creative, being flexible, like we talked about. If you've been at this for a while, or if you're afraid of making mistakes or looking stupid, guess what? You're going to make mistakes. You are going to look stupid, but that's okay. It doesn't make you any less amazing. It just helps you grow as a human being, as a leader, as an entrepreneur. And so lean into that, right? Just like see what you can take from it, try your best, learn from the screw ups, and then just keep on going. As long as you keep on going, right, you're going to get where you want to go. And so doing those things, not hiding behind the fancy website, making sure that you're connecting with people, most important thing of all, right? And so any of those things, any or all of them, to be honest, if you're watching this and you walk away with one of these things, I would say, you know what, this was the best time spent.
Yes. Oh, I love you, Luisa. This is absolutely phenomenal. And then how can they reach you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of super easy ways. My website is my name. So Luisa, Z as in zebra, HOU.com. And if you go to that website, that URL, you'll see a great PDF I have for getting started on building your own 6-figure coaching business. So if you want that, go to there. I'm on my Instagram right now, right? And so that is the same thing pretty much. It's Luisa.Zhou. So first name dot last name. And then my YouTube channel is the same, Luisa Zhou. So any of those, I share so many updates, like, almost daily newsletters. I've got weekly YouTube videos. I've got lots of Instagram updates. Like, it's great to connect with me on any and all of those.
Oh, nice. And Luisa, I'm actually going to have you repeat that one more time, because I can tell with coronavirus, the internet's slowing down a little bit. So repeat that first part you were saying. Actually, just tell them all the places they can find you one more time.
Okay. My website is Luisa, Z as in zebra, HOU.com. That's where you'll get the great PDF on building your own six-figure online business. My Instagram is Luisa dot Z as in zebra HOU. And my YouTube is YouTube. Just go to YouTube and type in my name, Luisa Zhou. So any or all of those.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming. This is absolutely phenomenal. I think so many people learned so many good gems this time. And like today, I feel like we really covered like, you know, if you are going through a shift and you've been thinking through like, how do I take these skill sets that I got in the corporate world and then start transitioning them into this new normal? Like, how do I still be of service? Like we covered that. You did that, girl. Thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Yay! So guys, we will see you all next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. If you want to see more about Invest with Teri, go to investwithteri.com and we will see you on Power of 1 Million next Wednesday. We have gotten so many great speakers. We have like a whole lineup for April. This thing seems to be taking like a legs of its own. So can't wait to see you guys. Check out the replays. Thank you so much for coming. All right, we'll talk to you later. Bye.